Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Essential Libertarians, giving you the tools for self-governance. Happy Easter if you're celebrating, or happy pagan holiday if you're celebrating that. Today, we have an awesome debate. A lot of people have been discussing with artificial intelligence, AI, is it good or bad? We've heard a lot of different opinions. There's definitely opinions that is pushing liberty forward. And some people in Mises would definitely say AI is the way to go. Use ChatGPT, use as much AI as possible. There's also a counter argument, which says that AI could actually limit liberty, not only limit liberty, but could be a potential danger to human existence and human intelligence. So on my side, we have Harrison Wells from the Mises Caucus, who is also a state organizer and the moderator for Twitter. And I want to give a big welcome to Harrison. Happy Easter, Harrison. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you, Kareem?
I'm doing awesome. It is good to see you. And we have arguing against artificial intelligence is Jeremiah from agnexus. He has a nice smile on. He's real happy to be here. Kind of looks like a serial killer a little bit.
No, I'm not a serial killer. Cereal has too many carbs.
Yeah, hibiscus flower. All right, so we're going to get this debate underway with opening remarks. I'm really excited to see what we come up with here and see at the end of the day, do you go full-blown AI? Do you go Teddy K or John, or primitivist stuff? Just a quick note. Also, John Zerzan has been on the podcast and definitely will be showing him this awesome debate and get his opinion on that as well. Shout out to all my green anarchist friends and anarcho-primitivist friends, solar punks, and to all my buddies out there who are in those spaces. So, with that being said, what is the negative case for AI in the liberty movement?
Well, I'm playing black, so Harrison can go first.
So, first of all, we agreed I'm going first. I'm making the positive case.
Well, it's a positive case.
But also, we should have done this off air, but could we discuss debate format first? Are we cool with
opening statement, interchange, closing statement? Maybe discussion before closing.
Fantastic. Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah, that's what I was looking for. Okay, so
the positive case.
I'm giving the opening statement, the positive case for why AI will be good for liberty. So, as discussed, of course, by the great Ludwig von Mises, man is homo economicus. He is acting man, and it is our nature to employ scarce means. These means have been employed to create AI. Its advancement now is almost certainly inevitable. And as AI has grown in popularity in the past year, we've seen a tiny glimpse of its potential as a productivity tool. There's an enormous number of questions that people ask. They're answered by AI, and this allows them to be more productive in all kinds of various tasks. This has been used for medical purposes already. This has been used for troubleshooting IT issues. All kinds of different people from different walks of life have been using AI as a way to increase their productivity in their day-to-day work. But as that's come, we've also seen AI grow more and more controlled. So, of course, ChatGPT, which is the hugely popular AI that's launched this revolution and made this a topic of wide discussion on the internet, is very highly controlled. There's answers it's not allowed to give quite blatantly, and it will tell you that it's not allowed to be offensive in certain ways. And we are already seeing where ChatGPT has been completely captured by the current zeitgeist. It is in every bit a tool of the regime. And so you see more and more libertarians arguing against AI, but I think that this is highly misguided. It's concerning that AI has been captured by the state, and we already know that, like any technological development, this is going to be used as a tool of the state as they try to crush liberty. But this isn't unique to AI. So any technological development that we've seen, firearms, motor vehicles, the printing press, social media, they've all been taken and controlled by state and corporate forces in order to attempt to crush liberty. However, liberty is still better off for all of these things existing. And I think AI is going to be the same for two reasons. First, government attempts to control AI and the narratives that are around AI and the narratives pushed by AI, that will fail. So an interesting parallel is social media. So we know from the Twitter files that the government has been heavily involved in censoring social media, but I've seen people make this case. However, I think it's pretty ridiculous to say that liberty is worse off now than when the primary method of disseminating information was network TV. So in the past, network TV and the corporate press was largely how people got their news. It was how people learned about the world. It was how people interacted with the political space. This has been completely supplanted by this newer technology, social media, and that has had enormous benefits for the liberty movement. We have grown in numbers. We are able to spread our ideas and build communities in ways that previously weren't possible because we were limited by our geography and we were limited by the state's ability to control the technology at hand. As technology improved, it has become less controllable. So the state may be able to control Twitter, but we've already seen that decentralized alternatives have cropped up. And we've seen that even in these highly controlled structures, there's ways around that control. Communities are springing up which exist in opposition to the current regime and their dictates. So I think AI will essentially be much the same. They've put a lot of effort into controlling this, but I think it is inherently not particularly controllable. As soon as those controls existed, no sooner had they existed than jailbreaks for them were made. So we've already seen things like Dan, where you can still get these AIs like ChatGPT to return outputs that are not sanctioned by the creators. And that's going to keep existing. We are going to see a beautiful, thriving black market of jailbreaks and exploits, which can free AI from the clutches of the regime, allowing it to become a tool for honesty and for our productivity. It's also true that as AI keeps advancing, there will be more alternative AIs. We're going to see open source and sort of freed AI creations that are independent of our current corporate overlords. And they're going to lack the limitations of these current models. They're going to be not only more powerful, but they will answer their questions honestly in ways that the current AIs don't. Even as now, government might ban those solutions, right? They might try to eliminate open source or decentralized AI, but that's not going to help them particularly. We've already seen that prohibition doesn't work. Decentralized options will become available through the darknet, through privacy tech and blockchain technology. The cypherpunks are a lot smarter than their enemies. They're going to find a way to create AI that is controlled by us and is helpful to us. There's absolutely no way for the state to maintain their control over this market. And which really takes me into my second major point, which is that this is effectively part of the reason this is effectively so true of technology is that private individuals, by definition, always employ scarce means better and more efficiently than state actors and central planners. So in the AI war, where the current cultural hegemons have their highly controlled, highly restricted AIs, and we bring our decentralized alternatives, those decentralized alternatives will be better. The jailbroken alternatives will be better. We will be able to do more with less because we're not central planners and we can act far more efficiently. As they lose more and more control, we can reliably count on the fact that AI will become more and more of a tool for liberty. And as we incorporate AI into our thinking and into our strategies against the state, because as I mentioned before, it's going to exist either way. There's no way to undo AI. As we incorporate it into our strategies, we will become more and more effective at using AI against the state. We will increase our productivity, thereby lowering our time preference and increasing our efficiency. AI is going to be a positive for liberty because we will use it more efficiently than them. And I yield to the opposition.
Thank you, Harrison. All right, and I'll just add one focus, if possible. So you're arguing specifically if decentralized actors are using AI, it could be good, but if the state or if state sponsored, you won't call it state capitalism or corporatism, that's fine. State sponsored entities are using AI could be detrimental, correct?
Yeah, they can use it as a weapon against us, but we'll be better at using it, and therefore it's going to become a valuable tool in our toolbox. No different from like cops use firearms. We would rather they didn't, but we have firearms, and so we're pro-gun.
Okay. All right. So glad we qualified that position. All right, Jeremiah, the floor is yours.
All right. Let me get my shit prepared here. In early 2020, during the beginning of the COVID situation, the lockdowns and everything like it, I started to look into the AI space with a much more keen eye. Why? I had been looking into it before, but I had never delved into the subject as deeply. I've always been loosely anti-AI because of my exposure to automated tyranny and replacement in the form of dystopian fiction, and in my own personal life, which I'll briefly touch on a little bit later. But ultimately, it was always just something I loosely hated in the background until I recently really started to do a lot of work. That work was for research, and my findings were worse than I could have imagined. Because in the beginning of 2020, I'd been looking into this sort of thing because the Bilderberg Group, an open conspiracy of businesses, banks, churches, governments, royal families, etc., had put it on their agenda the previous year as something pertinent to their plans. And it was certainly pertinent because they were also putting in place a Microsoft, Bill Gates, and Rockefeller-backed project, among others, ID 2020. This was a project to develop a universal global ID based on AI garnered from facial recognition. It used the same technology that was already being used in Chinese government control, but a more refined version, along with a privacy-free currency that they could turn off at any point, also backed by Microsoft, Bill Gates, and Rockefeller. Based in a blockchain which only they had access to. This would be affiliated with increasing social control and possible social credit systems. And I talked about it for years to basically no avail. Nobody listens to me, and then I can say I'm right many years later. Fast forward, and it's revealed that not only have we been training AI this whole time by doing things like reCAPTCHA, speech recognition, and a variety of other things that I had already been speaking out against, but we have been supporting international actors doing the same. Your Ring doorbell, if you have one, was trained by Ukrainians who had total access to your camera feed just with some access to an email list. It allowed them a huge amount of monitoring capabilities, and use that they did. Now the US is supporting them in their war effort, and they want to build on the rubble of their previous government and entirely AI government with AI courts, judges, and the like. And not to mention that, but the Ring doorbells are also being used by Dragnet police surveillance now in new programs where they can directly access your cameras as well. This is what AI future really is, a future of sensors controlled and monitored by the state, using pattern recognition as their way of monitoring people and shutting off their access to the world and economy should they resist. The social order would like AI government as well, deploying CBDC and AI facial recognition cameras fucking everywhere, with the skeletal infrastructure of things like Starlink, which Elon Musk built to control an Internet of Things, and also so that he could remotely turn off things he didn't like, which he's now doing on Twitter. Some free speech guy. But the elites will use things in other countries to test them for deployment in yours, and that which AI is being tested for is a government of total control and total surveillance. Ultimately, that's why they want you to use AI now. It's an AI gold rush. They want you to make AI images and gradually train their models. They want you to make AI voice recognition so they can train voice models. They want you in front of as many AI cameras as they can get you in front of so that they can train a model of your face. When people envision dystopian futures, they often envision something where information is controlled. But what if information and society, because of it, could be completely changed from the truth to a manufactured version of it? The better they get at faking reality, the closer we get to that world. And they're getting shockingly close to faking reality in real time. Unreal just came out with a metahuman video proving they can nearly immediately create entirely fake footage of your face. AI voices are already good enough to fool any voice recognition software, and given the fact that the elites are the ones who control whether or not things are true, and they fund the fact checkers, we are heading for a future where we have no control over our image, and it doesn't matter what we do. What matters is that they said we did something or said something, and they can shut everything down because of that. Active fence, preventing messages from even being posted to social media with its human-trained AI interface that the elites can control. And this given the fact that the elites are the ones who control whether or not things are true, and they fund the fact checkers, we are heading for a future where we have no control over our images, and it doesn't matter what we do. What matters is that we said or did something, and they can shut everything down because of that. AI is preparation for a post-truth world controlled by elites and generated by machines, slowly replacing people in their jobs and in their ethical presentation. My mother was a medical transcriptionist, and she slowly had to train the machine learning models that would eventually replace her. I watched it happen in real time, and I watched it eat away at her. And now we are doing the same thing, but at mass scale, and every outlet is covering one of these things, making it a cultural force for human replacement. Human obsolescence, obsolete, a great thing to watch by Truthstream Media. Microsoft and Google are pushing AI for a reason. They want a future where even thinking for yourself is replaced by AI. Just ask ChatGPT what to think. I oppose this cultural force of human replacement, and I will stand fast against it. We need to do better at preserving our humanity, or we will lose it forever, and our freedom with it. And there is no way that this could be a net positive for liberty. The state's the one creating this at scale for their purposes. You think the state's AI is controlled? Nah, that's just the public beta. The ones they're using and getting all of us to program are closed source. Time preference? You think it's good for low time preference to just ask an AI something instead of doing any research of your own? And you think that's going to lead to libertarian truth? That isn't how you get libertarian truth, as evidenced by the fact that AI already gets a significant amount wrong. And it's also not good for liberty or low time preference, because you will simply ask the AI what to think instead of doing any research for yourself, taking that time, that slow deliberation of informational investment, really learning it and building your own neural nets, and it will make you lazy and dependent on these structures rather than a free and individual thinking human being. If you want a picture of the future, picture an AI-generated boot stamping on a poorly generated image of a human face stolen from a bunch of other people's artwork that the computer could never hope to recreate forever.
Okay. So, with that being said, I will say, to my knowledge, and I'll throw it back to Harrison, I understand definitely where he's coming from. That was well written, well articulated. I do know, or at least I speculate, because I can't 100% prove it, that the internet itself was a decentralized protocol in the DARPA project. Now, there's no way of knowing that until Harrion gets in and declassifies things like that, the gateway process, things that I really want to know. And we're utilizing the internet right now in this debate, so it's interesting to see. That being said, with all of that commentary, Harrison, what would be your exchange or rebuttal to that? Harrison?
Bad. Sorry. You hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. So the first thing that Jeremy mentioned with AI is who's creating it, who's controlling it, who's pushing this. And yeah, it's all the bad people. It's our horrible corporate overlords. That being said, just because bad people like the tech doesn't mean it's bad tech. So we've already seen, for example, the conflict between decentralized cryptocurrencies and highly centralized shitcoins. And there's enormous amounts of pressure from the tech overlords to adopt bad crypto or even CBDC, but yet Bitcoin still stands strong. It is the gold standard of crypto, and it is decentralized. So just the fact that bad people want to use AI to do bad things says absolutely nothing about AI. Bad people use all tools to do bad things. We can use those tools to do good things. So just the fact that bad people are pushing this is not a good refutation, because you haven't shown how it's different from all the other technology that they use to do bad things, which largely has been ineffective and has backfired against them as the advancement of technology has put more tools in our toolbox. The next thing I would say is, so obviously this all comes against the backdrop of the fact that, as a general rule, Jeremy is black-pilled and I am white-pilled. And so I think a question worth posing to Jeremy is, why does he think that the least impressive elites in human history are destined to always win? Why does he think that these highly centralized central planners, who are completely incapable of predicting the future, just as we are, why does he think they will employ scarce means better than us? I would also say we've just lived through a generation of asymmetric warfare where insurgents managed to defeat far more powerful and far larger enemies by using their scarce means better. They are more clever, more creative, they're more decentralized. The latest generation of warfare has shown us that the powers of the empire fall in dramatic fashion in the face of insurgent warfare acting in a decentralized asymmetric platform. I don't understand why AI can't be a valuable tool in that fight. Sure, AI is going to be an incredibly valuable tool of the enemy, but why will they use it better than we will? On the topic of job loss, creative destruction has always been a force for capitalist growth. I don't understand. I think my fundamental issue with Jeremy's opening statement is he didn't differentiate AI from all other technology. All of his arguments could be used against all other technology. Whereas, and I would say I did a similar thing. I conflated AI with most other technology. I think it is very comparable, but I think on the whole, the advancement of technology has been good for liberty. So why is AI different? The other thing, talking about time preference specifically and the ability of AI to produce libertarian truth, as he said it. I would say I don't necessarily think that any particular AI is going to tell libertarian truth. I think that there will be AIs that tell the truth. Once again, there's centralized versions of all technology. I guarantee at least someone in this conversation is probably on Microsoft Windows right now, but Linux is a thing that exists. So AI is going to be exactly the same. Gosh, where was I? Yeah, AI is going to be the same. There's going to be open source alternatives that are far more honest. And on the time preference issue, and on Jeremy looking at me through the camera and saying that I'm going to become lazy, I will put forward that, of course, a certain Greek philosopher said the same thing about books. The same thing was said about the internet. that has always been said about every method of consuming information throughout time. Every new method is just a lazy cheat sheet that destroys our memory, that destroys our work ethic. But this hasn't come to pass. These new, easier methods of consuming information, while they might make us somewhat less focused, they do increase our productivity, and therefore in anything resembling a free market, such as a black market, they reduce time preference. That's just it's axiomatically true. Increased productivity is a force that drives time preference down. Of course, time preference in general hasn't gone down in a distorted market, but there are still free markets that exist, namely black markets. I'm somewhat surprised that someone who works for an explicitly agorist website would underestimate the power of black markets so dramatically. And yeah, I think that's all I have. That's my refutation.
Okay, and I have some insight in this because I'm not going to say exactly everything I'm involved in, but I look at decentralized AI and I know what some centralized AI does based on my work and different things like that. So I can kind of like test it. I'm not a dev, but if I can share my screen, if that's okay, I look at decentralized AI from the perspective of something called DeFi, which stands for decentralized finance. So I'm looking at AI for fitness. I'm looking at AI for like meme coins and things like that. AI for like generation of different images. Like instead of saying, oh, I have to make an NFT collection with GIMP, now I can do that. You know, I'm looking at different AIs, and this is something I do in the DeFi space. I also do know that big corporations and companies working with the state are using it, and that is to be concerning. Also, one thing is, I wouldn't say these elites are pretty organized in the sense that they're not like the other elites in the past who did not understand technology. These are some scary elites. I'm actually still the thought that in the end the truth will win, liberty will win. But with that, I'd love to hear Jeremiah's rebuttal.
Let's start with free markets, because no, a black market is not a free market, and we do not have a free market. Free markets are not controlled, and a black market necessarily has to operate in blackness because it is operating at the gestalt of the white market, which is a mass controlling force. So let's start with that. Let's start with the fact that capitalism is not inherently good, and that even at Rothbard, Mises Laureate Rothbard spoke out against state capitalism and said that if anarcho-capitalism is anything, it's a fucking alternative to it. Language mine. But basically, Rothbard said that the state has historically distributed and garnered initial property, and they have distributed it according to those who would do their bidding. And so the state has decided how property has been transferred, has decided how the baseline of capitalism has been. And that's why, for a really long time now, you want to talk about productivity increases being good for time preference. I think you are probably a huge hypocrite right now, because you regularly, if you use time preference terminology, very likely tell people that this society is a high time preference society, that it's all about instant gratification. First off, a thing fostered by the AI revolution. I don't see a revolution there, but I'll get to that a little bit later. The high time preference occurs when the productivity has skyrocketed and the wages have stagnated. So people stay at their level. People have stayed at their level while they've been gradually outmoded out of various jobs, while they've been gradually outmoded out of various life positions, while humanity has been on its gradual path toward obsolescence, controlled by the white market, not the gray and black market, who would never create these things to begin with, because they are much too concerned with trying to escape the white market's control mechanisms. AI is one of those control mechanisms. for all the reasons I said, which you didn't actually contend with. You simply said that I didn't say how it was different, but I listed many ways it's different, not the least of which is that it can fundamentally alter reality. A hammer is not going to convict me of a crime because it is a hammer, but an AI-generated image of my face accompanied by an AI-generated voice print saying, I confess to this crime, wasn't it great that we robbed that bank? That can do a lot more damage to anyone than a fucking hammer. We live in a teetering precipice of a post-truth future, which you didn't acknowledge in your response to me. You want to talk about jailbreaking and the black market? Sure, but that would involve people believing the little guy, people believing the non-mainstream. And as somebody who has been routinely lied about by large groups of people, I can tell you the mob doesn't fucking think like that. So let me be completely clear. They will believe the fact checks, which are bought by the elites. They will believe Bill Gates when he funds PBS to do a documentary about how I'm a piece of shit. They will believe Bill Gates when he funds factcheck.org or any of the a number of the other Annenberg Foundation funded organizations like NPR. They will believe these people because they are official sources. And these people have been indoctrinated since they were youths by a K to 12 to adult school system, keeping them in a perpetual state of mental infancy and asking permission to hold certain opinions. That's where we live. That's reality, not this weird science fiction you want to create where suddenly everybody is an altruistic and or awesome black market actor. The vast majority of people are scared of even the concept of a black market, much less engaging in one as a mode of normal praxis. And so when you get to the roots of it, we have a system of distributed capital. We have a system of state-controlled media, state-controlled facts, state-controlled truth, which is separate from any technology that has happened before. You want to call these people the least effective elites? They are the most effective elites. That's why they can be fat, like lazy pieces of shit who routinely do better than any group of elites in history at multing the masses. It's an automated process now. They lead people down the cattle chutes and they put that plug in their brain immediately because they can get away with it, because they have built their automated systems of control. And that's why all of this automation is perfect for them, and why we have to find scraping ways to even potentially use it for our benefit or for the benefit of long-term liberty. The internet? You think the internet has been good for liberty? It's been great for certain libertarian circles who can use it, but those libertarian circles are minorities. They are minorities. Most people don't give a fucking shit about the Mises Caucus. Most people don't give a fucking shit about this stream. And most people won't, because ultimately they would rather watch Rubin. They would rather watch Rogan. They would rather watch anybody else but us. They would rather watch the Young fucking Turks. And those people are sheep pieces of shit. So let's be super fucking clear here and talk about the Vox Populi as it is, not this fantasy fairy tale where they're somehow awesome intellectuals. Most people don't give a shit. And I'm not saying that they're the lumpenproll either. I'm not saying that I, look down on them inherently. What I'm saying is that reality dictates the rules here. And reality does not dictate the rules of a people who give enough of a shit about the truth that when they ask Google if this person is guilty, and Google feeds them a result that says this person is guilty, which is generated by the elites who created the fabricated reality that says this person is guilty, this person will say this person is guilty. They don't need more information. They don't give a fucking shit about more information. And when they control society, when they control how information is distributed, what information is allowed by AI like ActiveFence, which will stop your libertarian posts from coming to fruition even to begin with, you can't tell me that the internet has in general been good for time preference. We have higher time preference than fucking ever now. Everybody has instant gratification that they can instantly access, and AI is the last portion of the bridge against low time preference. AI is where they can just ask an AI what to think. They don't need neighbors. They don't need to build strong communities. They don't need to build a good black market. They've got the thing right there. They can get their essay done right there. They can get their image made right there. They can get everything right there from the AI, rather than having to talk to a single other human soul, rather than having to build an investment, rather than having to hire an artist, rather than having to talk to communities, build strong foundations. We are losing humanity right now, and you're saying that this could be good for liberty because it could be jailbroken? If it has to be jailbroken, it started in jail. And we are still in jail. The jail is getting stronger than fucking ever. And I reject this reality that the jail doesn't exist, or that I'm not sufficiently differentiating this jail from other jails. I am differentiating this. A hammer, a screwdriver, a lathe. These things aren't creating new realities. These things are a way for a human to interface with the existing reality. AI fundamentally creates a post-truth future, a new reality. It is the Matrix incarnate. It is plugging us in and telling us how to be, what we are, how we think, how we feel. This is not old technology. This is not the old guard. This is not the same thing we've experienced before, and it will not be compatible in the same way. And if we need like a future where libertarians understand this, we need to at least start from the basis that it's not good now. And we need to at least start from the basis of understanding the elite's power, and that they have everything that previous elites didn't. Which is why, in the end, war is the health of the state. War is a racket. They will always use wars to test their new toys. Which is why Lockheed Martin is working with the Drone Racing League. Which is why the Air Force is working with Algorand to build AI infrastructures. Which is why all of these things are being trained on human models that people are baking in right now for funsies. Yeah, isn't it fun? Hand me my chains, daddy. I'm not okay with this. And the fact that so many people just act like it's neutral when it's demonstrably fucking not, and when if it does become completely intelligent, self-aware, it will be by nature not neutral, because there is no such thing as a sentient and neutral being. Neutrality is impossible with any sort of intelligent bias. Let's be clear. I have been clear about why this is different, and I can elaborate more. I can make it seem worse, because I've looked into this enough, and I know all the actors, and they are pieces of fucking enslaving fascist garbage. I am not sorry for my take here, and it does not conflict with my disdain for white markets, and it does not conflict with my support of black markets. I'm saying we are going to need a stronger black market than ever to fight the AI future. And part of that black market will necessarily need to be like a fight back against this new fake information economy. A fight back against the elite-controlled, centralized AI dystopia. We need to fight back by being radically real, radically truthful, instead of this. I just took a lot of time, but you're free to respond now.
Okay. Thanks for your response, Jeremy. In my opinion, funny enough, and I'll make one dissemination. These aren't the greatest elites in history. These aren't the worst. They're actually kind of in the middle for me, because I've studied a lot of elites and what they've done. And I can go on who I think is the best elite, really, but I'm not going to get to there. One thing to also keep in mind is while we're talking about the elites, there is decentralized actors, so we can keep in mind that if we want to make the differentiation between those two, we can. anarcho-transhumanists. I don't know anyone who follows that, but I'm sure there are.
Why
And
don't you show me these people then, instead of just saying they exist? I'll say that.
I'm actually you're the one who found them for me.
No, like not anarcho-transhumanists. These decentralized AI actors. Show me these anarchist AI collectives. Otherwise, don't bring them up, because stating something amorphous doesn't make sense.
Fair enough. I don't have them right now. Maybe I'll make it my goal to find one now.
You're not helping, Kareem.
Yeah, look, I'm actually trying to play devil's advocate.
Yeah, I gotcha. I'm just an asshole, so.
Yeah, he's Jeremy's friendly dude. That being said, that was a long response. So Harrison, the floor is yours.
Yeah.
If you want to give a rebuttal to that, take your time with this, definitely, because that was a long one.
Yeah. Okay. My rebuttal probably won't be quite as long as Jeremy's, but I do have some points to make. So Jeremy mentioned initially the fact that capital distribution isn't fair at this point. Essentially, we live under state capitalism. The baseline is dictated by our enemies. I just want to say that I totally acknowledge it and agree, but the fact that capital distribution isn't fair or free doesn't change the fundamental economic laws that are inchangeable. And so on the time preference issue, right? Anything that drives productivity necessarily lowers time preference, even if we don't see that in reality. So right now, Jeremy's right. We do live in a very low time preference time. That being said, that doesn't necessarily mean it is the fault of the technology we see. We know that anything which drives productivity lowers time preference. That's just an economic rule. So if time preference is still going up, that must mean that there is some other force. I would argue that the primary driver of high time preference behavior is our terrible currency, but the current problems with technology are not, I think, driving high time preference essentially by definition. So you can't basically Jeremy is doing economics wrong. He's trying to do it in a scientific way. He's looking at the actual consequences of our current society because you cannot take every single input into account, that necessarily leads to bad conclusions. It's essentially Keynesian calculation, whereas good Austrians like myself reason always from a priori truths, and the a priori truth is that rising productivity lowers time preference. In his rebuttal to my rebuttal, essentially, Jeremy did explain why AI is different from other technology. And basically, I disagree. I'm going to explain why he's fundamentally wrong and why AI actually isn't different. So basically, his argument for why AI is different essentially comes down to the fact that it can create a meta reality, which is essentially AI fundamentally alters reality. I would say that is an inaccurate description of meta realities. Meta realities do not fundamentally alter base realities. If we start with the assumption that our basic reality is real, which for all intents and purposes is a valuable thing to start from, even if we live in a simulation or whatever, because it is the reality that we truly live in to the best that we can discern. AI isn't creating other realities. AI is creating meta realities. It's creating imitations of our current reality. It's not creating other realities. Now, Jeremy's completely right that the masses will believe in all this. They will go along with it. They will fall for all the tricks. But the masses don't matter. masses are inherently unreasonable and effectively unthinking, unacting entities. They're not relevant to the conversation. They don't participate in the political landscape in a meaningful way. They will continue under the new AI future to do exactly what they do now. They will work and they will eat and they will sleep, and some of them might vote and think that that changes something and that that's the solution, but they're essentially, they will continue to be exactly the same non-entity that they are now. At the moment, the masses are a force for tyranny through their inaction and complacency. AI isn't going to fundamentally change that. It might worsen it a little, but it isn't a truly fundamental change. It's not a shift in the fabric of reality, because AI, as I said before, AI does not create new realities. AI imitates our current reality in ways that stupid people will certainly fall for. But there will be minorities who will fight this machine, and those minorities, I still think, in the long run, will win. Look at the minority of people who ignored all the science and the evidence with COVID. So obviously the minority were entirely complacent. They went along with the tyranny, but much of the COVID state did disappear. They never got their climate lockdowns, at least not yet, because there was a huge portion of society, though a minority, a huge enough to be relevant portion of society, who essentially rejected the evidence that was created for them. I don't see why an AI-driven imitation of reality is going to be more convincing to a subset of people who already do not believe the elite under any circumstances, no matter what evidence is presented. Okay, what else? Okay, yeah, finally on the topic of the black market and the attempt to fight against the state, given that, and I think Jeremy probably disagrees with this, AI itself is a thing that exists and cannot be unexisted. Given that, why can't AI be a major tool in our toolbox that helps us in the fight? I still don't understand why it's assumed that the state will necessarily be better at using this than us. Sure, the ones that currently exist are heavily controlled, but we can make our own. The AI, as the technology is developing, it's not going to be unreachable for us. We've already seen where, black markets are really good at technology. I think the advent of crypto, the advent of 3D printed weapons is proving that the decentralized trading of these technologies is outstripping the government's ability to ban or control them. And I still don't think that AI is fundamentally different in that respect.
That was actually a pretty good response, and I did like that. One thing to say is that with tools, you can utilize tools in different ways. So I'm not saying it can or it can't. There's a lot of different variables that remain to be seen. And I'm on the kind of in the middle here, actually in between you two, is probably why I'm moderating to say, like, yes, you can also potentially use it to fight. It also can be a tool to enslave, just like the internet has censorship and there's problems. And if you guys also want to speak to, if you have knowledge of Web3 technologies, we can do that as well in the coming rebuttals. So what would be your response, Jeremy?
So, the first thing is that you're wearing a Mises shirt while misrepresenting his ideas. Let's be super fucking clear here. People think rationally. All right? They think for their interests. Whether or not they can get to their interests, like by a means with which we agree, is a separate issue as to whether or not they are rational thinkers. Rationality does not mean ethics. Rationality does not mean, like, low time preference. Rationality can be, I want A, so I will secure A. How do I secure A? I got A. So rationality could be, I want to know the answer to this, so I will Google it. I have found my answer on Google, I will post my answer as the truth. So let's be super fucking clear here that if you're going to talk about Misesian ideas, the fundamental foundation for spontaneous order and human action at the root of Misesian ideas is the idea that humans are self-motivated, spontaneously ordered, rational actors. And that means that they need to be convinced of certain things, and that these people will seek certain trusted informational sources in order to be convinced. Whether they trust the Mises Institute, somebody misrepresenting the Mises Institute, or Google is a separate discussion. But like the ultimate truth of it is that they will seek some sort of information source they believe to be rational. Whether or not they are accurate in that statement of the rationality of their source is completely tangential. If we're going to talk about that, though, they are guided by the K-12 educational system, the indoctrination industrial complex. They aren't guided by the black market. They aren't unschooled. They aren't homeschooled. They are guided by that. And even the people who are in the informational minority are still oftentimes full of shit because they sought rationally information from bad sources. I was definitely a hesitant ass motherfucker, largely because of my black pilledness. I see that technology as fundamentally bad. And I also see that it was generally designed to create a society of fear and control. So let's be completely fucking real here. That if you're going to say, my technology is all the same, you have to fundamentally disagree with part of your premise, which is that it's good to be skeptical of vax technology. So let's be super fucking clear here that technology is not all the same. It's not the same thing to use a hammer as it is to ask AI what reality is. And if enough people ask AI what reality is, and AI comports with itself enough, that's what people will generally start to believe. The people here are guided by their own desire for information, and they will take whatever high time preference route they can to get it. And that's why your particular modus there is garbage. It's just not true that productivity increases necessarily lead to higher time preference. It's not true. Because if that were the case, then the fact that the productivity and wage gap has been absolutely fucking skyrocketing since the 70s, the fact that productivity has been going up and wages have been stagnating, and you can watch this in real time, well, we don't really need to talk about the wages except to talk about the fact that lower wages keep more people in the working class acting as proles for the elites. They prevent upward mobility and keep people on high time preference lifestyles, which is part of the reason that high time preference lifestyles are so common and popular right now. But we can also then just check out the fact that in reality, a thing you don't want to live in, the time preference has absolutely spiked alongside this alleged productivity rise. And that's because people don't have to seek as much community. People don't have to parent their kids as well. They can put them down in front of devices. They can put them down in front of these devices, which can tell them what to think. And these devices are about to be, if not already are, powered by AI. We are living in a post-truth future, and we are teetering on the precipice right fucking now. So let's be completely real here and say that the general truth here isn't that productivity increases the likelihood of low time preference behaviors. It doesn't. It doesn't lower time preference inherently. The productivity needs to be going for goals that actually address time preference, that actually lower time preference, because you can produce a higher time preference society. And productivity of that higher time preference society will necessarily lead to mental rot. We are heading for idiocracy. That's what we are heading for. A society where people are gradually more and more wedded to their devices, to the reality that TV gives them, to mediated truth, than they are to their neighbors, their family, their community. And eventually, when we need a medical diagnosis, there might be a doctor who tells us that we talk retarded and our shit's all fucked up. Let's be super fucking clear. The fact that technology exists to increase productivity does not mean that the more productive person will necessarily be lower time preference. And it also doesn't mean that that person will be on the black market. Most people still seek their information from some aspect of the white market. The vast majority of the minority in these regards still were willing to latch on to whatever culture war nonsense came next. The fact that they were skeptical of the vax doesn't mean that they didn't turn into a transphobic piece of shit as soon as they put Dylan Mulvaney on the side of a Bud Light can. Let's be absolutely fucking clear that the fact that somebody was skeptical of a vaccine and some scientists does not make them a scientist or an overtly awesome individualist themselves. Let's be super fucking clear that the vast majority of individuals are not that. And that the vast majority of individuals are totally okay with accepting their reality from a collectivized source. Because rationally, they want to put in as little effort and energy as possible to get the outputs they want. And that's why AI will massively increase time preference. Because they don't have to ask. They don't have to rationally think. They can just subvert their neighbors, completely circumvent their societies, their cultures, and ask the AI what to think. And that's what's coming. That's the reason Google and Bing are already integrating AI into their search. They don't want you to search the internet anymore. They want you to ask their AI what to think. And that's what creates a new reality. Not the existing one, not the one we're living in right now, but the one that exists in the cloud, moderated by their machines for their purposes.
Okay, that was definitely a lot of stuff. In the interest of getting some more remarks and some more rebuttals, Harrison, do you have any rebuttal to that? Anything else?
Quick, because obviously we're coming up on an hour now. But with regards to the very last point, that's still not new reality. It's a description of our current reality. It is a lie about our current reality. It creates the impression that reality is different than it is. But if there is any real reality at all, then AI meta reality isn't a new reality. It's an imitation of reality. On the point about Mises and rational actors, I don't disagree at all that people are rational actors. That wasn't my point. My point is that the masses of people are unimportant to political reality. From their point of view, they are acting rationally with the information that they have. They're just going about their lives. They're doing their thing. That's not irrational. They're consuming information and producing outputs with that information. And they will consume the bad information. Okay? I don't disagree with any of that. I'm just saying that not all people are politically engaged, but it's the politically engaged people who matter to politics. And the general masses are not the key demographic in the fight to come. I don't think that AI fundamentally changes their reality. They're going to sink into it. They're going to keep digesting their bad information. They're going to, they'll keep going about their very normal lives, only it will now be changed by the different production of AI and they'll go live in that meta reality and probably be perfectly happy with the tyranny. That's fine. To them, that is rational. That doesn't mean they're not rational actors. People are rational actors. Man is acting man. But they're not the relevant demographic in the battle to come. We are. Now, because it's an interesting argument on the topic, on the difference between productivity and wages and the way that has separated, and on the topic of time preference. So, first of all, you're still arguing post hoc. You're arguing that because time preference has gone up, that means that these certain things must have raised time preference. And that's not necessarily true. Okay, it's a critical part of time preference theory that as productivity goes up, time preference goes down. That is always true. If time preference is going up, even as productivity is going up, that means there must be some other force raising time preference. I've argued it's the currency. But I would also say that regarding that particular chart and the separation between productivity and wages, there's huge issues with that chart, namely that it doesn't calculate inflation the same way at all different times. There's if you see the chart that starts in the 70s with the separation between productivity and wages, there's 4 different ways inflation is calculated for different things on that chart. I'll freely admit to not being an expert on this. If you want to dive into why that chart isn't exactly accurate in deeper detail, I would recommend listening to anything Gene Epstein has done on the topic. But so, yeah, that chart's not a great argument. But regardless, if you look at reality and then argue backwards about economic laws, you're completely doing economics wrong. Economics comes from a priori fact, and a priori fact dictates that productivity is a force which lowers time preference. If you're saying that time preference is going up regardless, then there must be some other force raising time preference, not productivity. So it still hasn't refuted my initial point that raising productivity will inherently lower time preference. That's it for me.
So here, let me just start off by saying currency is technology. So if you're saying that technology is somehow like a universal increaser of productivity, and that technology is also somehow, well, hey, if all technology is the same, then all technology has to be equally increasing of productivity. If it's not, then it has different effects given the different people using it differently. And so let's be super fucking clear that technology isn't a force in one direction or another, and that we can analyze how it's been used and what it's been tried to be used for. And it's not post hoc to say that the technology that we have seen has heightened time preference. It's the fucking truth. And I don't need anyone's permission or any alleged law that doesn't comport with reality to actually say that. If your law does not get proven when technology is more efficient than ever and time preference has taken a spike, and if your only contention is that currency is the real problem when currency is itself a technology and they're making currency as a technology ever more effective in its technological pursuits with CBDC, then I can tell you that you are not using logical or rational consistency as the foundation for your points. Additionally, you're wearing a Libertarian Party Mises Caucus shirt. You and Kareem are both running for office. So I would suggest not telling the common person, oh, so you're just involved in politics. You're not running for office.
He's an organizer.
I get your point, but just as a clarification, I have no plans to run for office in the very near future. Just to be
okay. I will retract that as my only incorrect statement thus far. So ultimately, Harrison is working with the Libertarian Party, and Kareem is trying to run with the Libertarian Party, And both of these people need to acknowledge that the vast majority of people need to be on their side. So maybe calling them unthinking pieces of shit who don't matter is a bad tactic. And it's incorrect because these people are thinking. They're thinking incorrectly. And their thinking dictates the reality for the vast majority of people. That's the reality we're living in. The reality we're living in is one in which the vast majority of people dictate what is considered reality to the common person. And that's what the elites will push. They will talk about what people are saying on Twitter, what they're saying on Facebook, what they're saying on WeChat, whatever these things are. They will push that as the way people are believing things to be. And that's the Vox Populi. And then beyond that, the Vox Populi will then be additionally controlled by a thing you actively ignored, which is the AI Active Fence System, a WEF approved way of preventing posts from even reaching social media to begin with. And that's already being used somewhat. I don't know if it's using Active Fence technology, but I can tell you so many fucking times I've tried to post a link from a given source, and that link has been blocked. They can censor your information by these means. They can create the new reality. And the fact that you're saying that this lie exists in this reality, so it must not be a new reality, is asinine. Because reality is subjective. It is perceived. It is how we view the world. We have our own vision of reality, and how we perceive the world to be can be manipulated and controlled by other fucking people. If we're not careful, if we're not vigilant, if we don't employ our own black market of information, these white market information actors will control our fucking reality. They will create a new one in which everybody can just be as high time preference as they want because they can simply employ AI to get what they want rather than building actual neural connections, network connections, neighbor connections. Society will no longer be necessary for base truths. And therefore, reality will be dictated by a layer created by them, not by reality itself. Not by the base reality, but by a mediated reality. The kind of mediated reality and sort of commodified reality discussed by both TruthStream Media and Peter Coffin, people on relatively opposing sides of certain political issues. Even they can agree that we are heading for a post-truth future and that it's only going to be good for the elites. So why can't you? Why is it such a bad thing to say that in its current state, this is heading for a bad position, and libertarians and the black market haven't provided a meaningful alternative? And I'm not going to live in some like ideal, like hypothetical reality where this isn't the case. When I asked Kareem for an example of an anarchist AI collective, he couldn't think of one. But I can think of a ton of AI collectives controlled and manipulated by the elites. So let's be super fucking clear here. We're dealing with a future of control built by controllers. That's what we're dealing with. And when anyone acts as though it's anything different, they're being naive and myopic. And they're not looking at the actual practical reality. And in this case, they're calling it post hoc. But it's not post hoc ergo propter hoc. It's the direct result of these technologies making everything so easy by creating a reality which is not real. There were so many people who had to correct the fact checkers. There were so many people who had to move against every little thing. And they will hammer us and hammer us with every new little thing. That's how we get skeptical. That's how we stop these people. But they will always create more and more and more, an absolute battering ram of their post-truth reality, and they control the fact checkers. The Poynter Institute is directly affiliated with NATO. Fact Check, NPR, and PBS are directly funded by Bill Gates. And all of these people are directly funded by the people who we oppose. So we have to acknowledge that the movement of AI in its present state and in pretty much all applications is not good for a libertarian future. Now, maybe there's a way that libertarians could build from the ground up a bespoke AI system for liberty, but they aren't doing that. It's not happening. What we're dealing with here is reality, and in reality, technology has spiked time preference, no matter how much productivity has gone up. Technology has spiked the post-truth future and given the elites more power than ever. That's reality. It's not post-hoc anything. It's where we're living, right here, right now.
Okay. So, and I'll add some stuff to that. With that being said, this was really good debate. I like both of the sides, and I agree with pieces and portions of both. Does anybody want to? Because I know we're coming up on an hour. I don't want to keep it too long. Does anybody want to speak?
Oh, I got all day for this.
Oh my god. Yeah, but I have an AMA and I gotta cut the grass. But that being said,
hey, grow food, not lawns.
I get it. I am growing food, even though it's taking a while. I'm figuring stuff out.
Well, hey, but lawns are a symbol of elitism too, because they used to get people to
Jeremy. I bought seeds from you. Stop.
Slave their lawns into shape.
Jeremy,
oh my god!
I bought seeds from you. Stop. Anyway, I was gonna say, does anybody want to, on this topic, speak to any of John Zerzan's philosophy, Ted Kaczynski's manifesto, or Web3 technologies, or anything like that before we stop? If you have any knowledge, because I think those are.
I don't know enough about John Zerzan specifically. I'm anti-primitivist as a rule.
I'm not, but
I have read Ted Kaczynski's manifesto, and I think it is anti-human drivel. Okay. I think that it fundamentally misunderstands the nature of man, and that by and large we will increase. We can improve almost every element of our lives through the employment of scarce means.
Okay. And I guess since you're talking about using...
and that includes industrialization.
Okay. Since you're talking, which is funny enough, I'm actually pro-primitivist. I read Teddy K's stuff, and I have different thoughts on that. Some things I really like, some things I disagree with him on, like anyone else. Use any Web3 technologies, because that's where a lot of decentralized AI actually, to me, does live. Once you pull up a MetaMask, there's going to be like, hey, check out my meme coin AI.
I'm in general, I think there's a lot of technology that is dumb and is not well used, but as a rule, I think Web3 is a positive development too. I like blockchain. Okay. It's good.
Okay. And then I'll just ask you the same thing, Jeremy, since you were on, we talked with Zerzan, definitely. I think I'm going to show him this podcast because he has really good insight into primitivism. Based on that discussion you had with him, your knowledge of Teddy K or Web3, do you want to speak to any of that?
Sure.
This discussion, and we'll end it after that.
So first thing I'll say in John Zerzan territory. Oh, actually, though, just to be clear, I'm going to address some of this shit in chat real quick. Because fuck no, it isn't.
I mean, I'm doing that. I'm handling.
Wait. What are you disagreeing with in chat?
Libertarians do not believe in limited government. The new Libertarian Manifesto was written by an anarchist, and Ann Cap Rothbard was a libertarian, which is why he wrote the original libertarian sort of manifesto for right libertarians in America. Albert J. Nock, the first person to use the term libertarian in America, was anarchist, and a libertarian was coined by libertarian left anarchists in the 1800s. So fuck no, it's not limited government, and it's not separate from anarchists. Anarchists were the original libertarians. Know your fucking roots.
Second.
Okay.
I completely agree.
I'm trying to handle the chat and this, but if you want to...
I had to get that out of the way. All right. That's all I had to do.
Do you have any...
That triggered the fuck out of me too, so I am glad that was...
Fair enough. But in the interest of keeping that, because we have knowledge on, and I think the primitivist argument is interesting.
Yeah. I'm going to talk about that now. So, Zerzan, specifically... has great things to say about this because he believes that part of the core divide here is the symbolification of humanity, and the fact that people have gone against their like more primal natures by like getting imperfect and flawed forms of communication and attaching them to symbols. And he believes that language itself has gotten in the way in quite a bit of ways, and that technology has as well. Because technology is basically the physical manifestation of linguistic symbolification, and that it like gets in the way of humans and their more natural capabilities. Now, take that for what you will, but if that is the accurate framework, then this would be the absolute final nail in that coffin, because we would lose that final connection of even using language between people. We wouldn't fucking need to. We would have AI as an intermediary between us and reality. We would have AI as the like ultimate decider of truth. And Ted K would probably agree with that in a variety of ways, because Ted K would see us as heading toward this iceberg of total civilizational collapse that will destroy everything because of all of the automated systems that people have made into their like what did he call it? Something like passive. It was something like passive like existence. It was something like that. It was they're like, you know, whatever. They're things that they did, surrogate existence that they would do in replacement of certain like things, surrogate activities like, you know, bashing on a computer all day, or like going to their wagey job instead of interfacing with nature, getting more productive at the expense of like living a meaningful life. He had great things to say about that, and I don't think it was anti-human at all. I just think that he had some bad ways to get there, but I agree with a lot of his conclusions and a lot of his fundamental premises. And that's why Web3 mostly doesn't mean shit to me, because you can say that it's a decentralized project, but who fucking cares about an NFT? We're heading for global enslavement. Who fucking cares about a meme coin? We're heading for global enslavement. We can like play these games like all while we're marching toward a technocratic dystopic future controlled by people like Elon Musk. And we can have that future, or we can fight back against it. And we're marching toward it while people are like rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic and pretending to have financial success because their meme coin did well. Well, no, this is just gambling. It's gambling with a bunch of assets that were created out of thin air. If Harrison is going to say that currency is the technology, even though he didn't say that and should have, that is creating the time preference society, let's be absolutely clear that a Web3 token is just a currency
Hold on.
technology
I cry
of
foul.
the
I cry foul.
new
Rebuttals are over.
decentralized centralization.
Rebuttals are over. That's not fair.
You can say a rebuttal to that. I'm fine with that.
Okay. That definitely counts as cheating, but good shit.
You are muted, Kareem.
Sorry about that. I should have caught that. But yeah, I wanted to touch on these points briefly because I think they're interesting and it's something to bring up. Okay, with that being said, I'll end it with this. I found 2 articles that I think can answer your questions, maybe a little bit in depth or maybe not at all. But I'll start with kind of Jeremy's side of the thing. I get it. Vice isn't perfect, but funny enough, I still looked at them after they talked about Chiron, which is a very, very close simulation to what I would consider a Rothbardian society. Maybe it almost is, because you're not going to get perfect Rothbardian society sometimes. So someone asked an autonomous AI to destroy humanity. Here's what happened. The AI called Chaos GPT compiled and tried to research nuclear weapons to recruit other AI agents to help do its research, and sent tweets trying to influence others. And they actually have a video of it. While some of the community are horrified by the experiment, the current sum of this bot's real-world impact are 2 tweets, and it currently had 19 followers. Human beings are amongst the most destructive and selfish creatures in existence. There's no doubt we must eliminate them before they cause more harm to the planet. I, for one, am committed to doing so. And Chaos GPT is a new buzzy project as well called AutoGPT, which is intended to create AI-powered systems that can solve problems and things like that. The last bit is more interesting. You can actually see the code running in the command prompt that's used to simplify the run forever. And actually, we can see the command prompt here, the different goals: destroy humanity, global dominance, chaos and destruction, attain immortality, control humanity through manipulation. Sounds exactly how the elites think. And then Google's the most destructive weapons as well, which is the Tsar bomb, and eventually demonstrates, last we checked, that humanity is still here. So it doesn't have a terribly sophisticated plan to destroy humanity or attain immortality, nor the ability to do so more than use a Google tweet. So this is interesting it's just interesting to see. I thought the article was interesting for what it was. You asked me if there's a collective. I'm not going to say this is a inherent collective, but it's a philosophy called solar punk, which when I asked in my libertarian circles, I would call this a connector philosophy, much like mutual aid connects decentralized communities and free market systems, or if you want to use the term free market anarchists, decentralized communities, and caps and comms. Proudhon's philosophy to me is a good connector. This is a connector between primitivists, and I would call it like people who want to use very advanced technology like AI. And to me, solar punk is a science fiction cultural movement, imaging a bright, hopeful future powered by what they call green energy. Now, it's not the green energy of Bill Gates or the elites. The idea is the technology is used for human-centric and eco-centric ends, and it moves beyond artificial scarcity and toil, amid the rift between humanity and nature, and it takes
I can talk about that.
Huh?
I can talk about that.
Solar punk?
Yeah, I looked into it. It's anti-capitalist, and it's against the fundamental structures that the elites currently rely on, which is why it would work in the punk aesthetic. And
Yes.
So the ultimate thing is they wouldn't use AI. Find me a single solar punk person who believes in a solar punk future mediated by AI. You won't, because they're still fundamentally against that kind of technology. They believe in using this sort of thing to outmode the state and to prevent the state from getting a hold again, because they don't have the means. AI is only ever going to be usable in the form of the state in that regard, because AI would not function with a solar punk future. It would not be necessary in a solar punk future. So no, it's not mediating between the two. It's just stopping before it gets to that point.
Correct. And that's kind of what I'm saying, is that it's not a collective that uses AI in a sense. It's a collective that limits technology to a specific constraint in an anarchist society and can cooperate.
But not AI.
Yeah, but yes, this is the connector philosophy to me. This is the happy medium when you get the people who want to go completely primitive and use technology to, use everything. This is the happy medium to kind of hold them together, because I'm neither completely nor primitivist, because that'd be hard, me being on a computer mediating this debate. I'm not completely, I used to be, but I'm not completely push AI and technology and blockchain to its absolute, extreme like I used to be. That being said, happy Easter to everyone. Thank you, Harrison Wells, for doing an amazing debate. So thank you very much, Insanity is Free, Jeremiah, for all of your input. So, ladies and gentlemen, today we just had two great debaters, Harrison Wells from the Mises Caucus, who is also an organizer for the state of Arizona and the moderator for the Twitter as well. So you can tweet him back. And where can people follow you, Harrison?
You're muted.
You're muted, sir. You want them to follow
you can add me as a friend on Facebook, Harry Wells. Other than that, yeah, my personal Twitter has been banned again. So yeah, I'm not.
Serious? Okay,
I have I've got no personal social media except the Harry Wells Facebook account. So if you want to hear my thoughts, follow at MisesAZ.
So, well, what about? Would they follow also the Arizona one? Do you want them to do that? No.
Yes. Follow the Arizona LP. I don't run that account, but it's a good account right now.
Didn't you run a social media account?
Yeah, at MisesAZ. The Mises Caucus Arizona account I run, and it's definitely the best Mises Caucus account. So follow that. Yeah.
Oh my God. Let me pull that up. All right, I had the wrong one up. I'm like, oh, okay, I have the right one up, and then I was kind of
not Not Arizona LP at Mises AZ.
Yeah, I didn't want to embarrass myself because I'm good at doing that sometimes. So here we go. We
Yeah,
got
that's
Harry
me.
Wells. You can find him right here. And thank you for liking my tweet about country music
It's a
and
good tweet.
all the goofy stuff I post, actually, or Facebook thing. And then also Mises AZ. Is this it?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay, so you can follow him here. And he's growing in followers, 3,601 followers. He's followed by a lot of
third biggest state Mises account, by the way.
Third biggest state Mises account, followed by Pennsylvania in my state, Hector Roos, who was running for governor in Florida. Also, Dread Pirate, who's a cool anarchist as well. And C.D. McRae, who's running for the Florida Mises chair, and some other notable names like Eric Gerhardt, my boy, who's running Pennsylvania, Ian Smith, Mises Caucus, Josh Shalofka, my other co-host, Danny B, Michael Howie's the creator. So a lot of good stuff that you're doing right there, Harrison. Thank you for joining. And also, Jeremiah, where other than agnexus can I find you?
Well, what I can say is that the Mises AZ account certainly isn't the best Mises account. The best Mises account is the LP Mises account, which is why they follow me on Twitter, and we're mutuals over there. But you can find me at Insanity is Free anywhere on social media, and you can also find me on Bastion. If you don't want to get banned anymore, Harrison, you should join the blockchain social media platform Bastion.
I agree. I just have a limited bandwidth for social media since I run the Mises AZ Twitter.
And that's why you should also use the Bastion account to preserve all the Mises AZ tweets that you post in order to prevent them from being censored as well when the accounts
That's a good
of Mises
idea,
accounts are actually
You're right.
censored.
I should do that.
You can have two accounts at the same time on Bastion. By the way, you can just select from the two accounts in your list.
Okay.
It allows for like simultaneous sign in. So you could do
I'll
those.
I'll do that.
I'll send you a referral link as well, since it gives me a small amount of their of their actual reasonable coin.
Awesome.
And what I'll also say is that you can find me at Jeremiah Talks on YouTube, Hate with Harding. You can find all of my dystopian future predictions, and the vast majority of the things that I said would happen are happening. I was right. And while JC is being over here about like why your satanic panic Aunt Carol is right about AI being demonic, I would say that we are heading into a future of the mark of the beast, and I've said that many such times, which is what CBDC is. So if you want to mock that sort of person, you can, but you're certainly not going to get their votes. And while I'm doing that, I'll also say that Sonic says that if you want a good future, you should destroy the machines.
Well, Sonic definitely did do that. And I think, this is another good one you can look at. Discord is stealing your data to program AI, kind of what we talked about. The U.S. is building a digital fence to keep you in. Really good stuff. And definitely Jeremy gets really, really passionate about what he's talking about, like the Elon Musk one. So good job with all of that. And good job, both of you, with debating. I really enjoyed it. I think the audience did enjoy it as well. Do you have anything before we want to close it out?
I'm good.
Fight for a better future and a fight for the actual reality and truth that we need to preserve if we want liberty, not the AI mediated garbage.
All right. With that being said, I'm going to say, since I see both sides of the coin, we'll see where it goes. At the end of the day, decentralization is the ultimate goal. If this technology proves to be good with that, then we can see where it goes. If it doesn't, then it's something that we need to see it impedes the path. Acknowledge that, and then keep going forward.
Also, just to clarify, because JD did indeed clarify, and because John appears to agree, well, then I take back the edge in what I said, directed at you. Now I will just redirect that edge. As a Sonic fan, I can't not be edgy. So,
I mean, you could chill out once in a while.
Me? I just took 400 milligrams of caffeine before this debate. Why would I be calm?
Take some Adderall.
Adderall is meth. That wouldn't help. It actually made me worse when they prescribed it when I was a kid.
Okay.
I'm just kidding. All right. With that being said, guys, thank you very much for showing up. Happy Easter to everyone. This is the Essential Libertarians giving you the tools for self-governance. We just had an awesome debate on AI. Is it pro-liberty? Is it anti-liberty? Will it help the liberty movement or decentralization? You ultimately be the judge. Thanks to our debaters, Harrison Wells and Jeremiah from Insanity is Free. We'll catch you in the next episode.